We've seen a lot of drama in the StarCraft community over the last week or so. The new multiplayer balance patch has been announced, and in general, everybody now has shared their opinion. Personally, I think the way Protoss is being treated is not entirely fair, but luckily for us, at least for this particular series, played on the new PTR, I get to keep my thoughts to myself for, well, probably one more day. We'll get to some Protoss matchups tomorrow. This particular series, it's a Zerg versus Terran, a best of 3 played on the public test realm. Meaning that all of the games here are played with the new patch. And I guess this is going to be our first proper look at what the matchup ZVT will look like. Now, spotting right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg pieces, we have none other than SHIN, one of the world's highest ranked Zergs. His opponent, a previous world champion of StarCraft 2 with the red Terran pieces. We're looking at none other than Oliveira. Now, in case you... I wrote down a little rundown, okay? In case you haven't really paid attention to all of the changes, or maybe you kind of looked at it and then you mostly forgot. I have made a little list of changes here that are very significant. So, first off, the Queen for Zerg is now 25 minerals more expensive. That's a huge nerf, but at the same time, you may be wondering, what did it cost, right? We nerfed the Queen, what did it cost? What did we get in return? Well, first off, the Hatchery is 25 minerals cheaper, the Spine Crawler is slightly stronger, the Spore Crawler is slightly stronger too. The Hydra has a new Hive Tech upgrade called Dash. Microbial Shroud from the Infestor now sticks to units, so you can move your Hydras around and it will stick to them. The Ultralisk can now go ahead and push units around as well, so it should have an easier time getting to the front. And the Broodlord's Broodlings have 10 HP in addition to what they already had, and they also attack a little bit quicker. So, what did it cost to nerf the Queen? It cost everything. Yeah, it cost literally everything. In the meantime, for Terran, we've had quite a few changes as well. Interestingly enough, the Ghost, which is the one unit that I think everybody considers to be a little bit too oppressive, the one, unit that everybody complained about the most, the Ghost did not get any adjustments. However, the Bunker, the Missile Turret, they can now be salvaged. The Planetary Fortress went from 3 armor to 2 armor. The Sensor Tower is cheaper too, can now also be salvaged, but it has less radar range. The Supply Cooldown ability from the Command Center, as we do have SHIN hiding a bunch of links over here on the left side of the map. The Supplies Cooldown from the Command Center that allows you to basically make a supply depot on top of an existing supply depot now has additional HP and heals the unit and the structure immediately to 500. The Hellions Blue Flame has been increased from +5 damage to +9 damage. And then the big one, honestly the big two that I think are really lame. The Liberator's additional range when researching advanced ballistics, it's got a 56% area increase. However, you can't quite siege up the unit as far anymore. And we do have the... This is Oliveira apparently going kind of nutty here, man. We have a couple of Zerglings in the meantime on the other side of the map, killing the add-ons as well. Alright, fair enough. And then last but not least, the Thor. You know how every once in a while, once in a blue moon, we see Mutas in this matchup? Well, now we're no longer going to see them anymore because the Thor will deal terrible damage to Mutas, even more than it already has in the past. Those are the general changes. I would imagine that especially early game for Zerg is going to be quite a bit harder. All jokes aside, like the Queen nerf really is quite significant. It's common for Zergs to get up to a dozen Queens in this matchup, and every single one of them being more expensive is going to hurt quite a bit. If you are, in exchange, going to be making like a Spine Crawler or 2, right? Which is, I guess, the kind of concept that the Balance Council is aiming for. It means that your, well, worker count is going to be lower. We have a Roach Warren coming up here at about the 4-minute mark for SHIN. Not resaturating the gas guys just yet, though, so he's not going to go too aggressive. I think, honestly, the early game is going to be a little bit slower for Zerg in this matchup compared to where it used to be. Slightly, not a ton, but definitely a little bit slower. So the economy for Zerg should be slightly smaller. But then, I guess the Ultra is going to be more playable. Although I'm not entirely sold on that. I think the Broodlord is also going to be slightly more playable. But with the Hellion buff, I don't really know exactly if that's going to nullify it. Or if it is not really going to have much of an impact. It is going to be more viable, though, to transition towards Ultras later on into the game. So one of the problems the Ultras is always, well, for the last 14 years, they've always had the issue that they cannot quite get to the front of the battle. And yeah, now they should have a much easier time. For Terran, the early game should be mostly unchanged, but turtling is going to be slightly harder to do. Planetary Fortress -1 armor doesn't sound like a huge deal, and obviously all of it is relatively small. But -1 damage on the... yeah, on the planetary, or -1 armor rather on the planetary is quite significant, as we have Stimpack finishing up right now. Yeah, this is actually going to hurt quite a bit. Oliveira coming in hard. We have a handful of units here for the Zerg, but this is exactly the type of attack that I was trying to highlight. This is a complete sacrifice here from Oliveira, knowing that it's going to be hard for the Zerg to make a lot of queens. So we had probably like, what, 4 less queens at that point in the game, maybe 3 less queens. SHIN trying to maybe stay alive a little bit longer using the roaches instead, but that did not quite seem optimal. So killing that many queens actually for 11 marines is probably worthwhile. You got a bunch of drones there too. 15 workers have actually gone down in total. Okay, so I can imagine the entire early game is going to change quite a bit, with Terrans more leaning on aggression. Things like maybe the good old 16 marine drop can become a little bit more powerful again. On the flip side, I can imagine in the late game we're going to see a little bit more Brute Lord and a little bit more Ultralisk play. This is already a funky fight though. 6 minutes into the game, both players are really just trying to build up economy, but they're playing out on the map as well. There is a command center here, and maybe we could continue attacking. SHIN not quite expecting that the CC would be on the low ground, so he decides to get on out of there. Fair enough. Now, the Ghost, right, it did not get nerfed. I guess with the Brute Lord getting buffed ever so slightly, and with the Ultra getting buffed ever so slightly, the Ghost, yeah, maybe it doesn't need to have an adjustment. I am, however, a little bit confused about the Liberator. I'm hoping we're gonna see all of those units that I just mentioned in this series, because a 56% area increase for the Liberator's anti-ground attack seems enormous to me. I guess we'll find out. So far, though, Oliveira trying to go to town here, just harassing the Zerg wherever he can. +1/+1 coming up here for SHIN. We've seen SHIN make this exact opener, or we've seen him do this exact opener several times. And he has gone into like a very quick hive and then into melee upgrades on the back of this. So just because he's going roaches right now doesn't mean he's not going ultras. I wouldn't be surprised actually if he goes ultras from here. Normally actually the transition from a roaches into ultras is really derpy. Because yeah, here we go. Baling Nest coming up, Infestation Pit, he'll go hive and then probably into ultras. So anyways, roaches together with ultras are really bad, because normally the roaches would always be stuck in the front and then the ultras would kind of derp around and never actually get into the battle. I'm assuming that transition is going to be quite a bit better. But I guess we'll find out. Second factory coming up right now here for Oliveira. Apparently his first factory had a contamination on it. Fair enough. We have a second NG bay here in the natural expansion too. Fourth command center, almost done. This would be the transition for Terran, if they want to at the very least, to go into, for example, Ghosts. But I wonder if you don't actually need Ghosts here, and maybe you can just go into Liberators a little bit more reliably instead. Now, fun fact, actually. So this is played as part of a tournament. The Lulu Cup. Shout out to the tournament organizer for sending me these replays, because it's been really difficult to find games played on the new patch. Apparently the PTR is kind of bugged right now, so the public test server, apparently it has all kinds of issues. Luckily for us, the StarCraft community is one of the very best gaming communities out there, and somebody apparently made a PTR mod for the live version of the game, meaning that you can play the unbugged version, the intended version of the patch, on the live version of the game by adding it as a mod to your custom game. Which I think is pretty hilarious. So there is a public test server mod on the live server of the game. Gets a little bit confusing, but apparently it works better. There's a lot of issues with the PTR right now where, for example, you can't actually attack move or something with the Mama ship. The Mama ship can't actually target fire anything. There's also a few quality of life improvements that we already just now saw with a colored scan. So especially for Terran versus Terran, it's going to be kind of nice, I guess. But when Oliveira is going to scan out on the map, the scan should be in red. which should be a little bit easier for us to follow along with. For Terran versus Terran, the late game is all about all over the map. And it's gonna be a little easier to spot who's who. Now, we have Vipers coming, and there it is. Okay, so our first real change, at least past the early game, is gonna be to the Ultra. Yeah, so melee upgrade on the back of this. We're going Ultra Ling Bane, but he's building this off of a very, very late Zergling speed and a much faster Roachborn. We don't yet have a Ghost Academy on the other side of the map. We do have an 8 Rex. I'm hoping that we're gonna see a second starport, or maybe like a fusion core. We're gonna see like Mass Liberator versus Ultras. So let's see how good the Ultra now is. So to clarify, the Ultra, it hasn't really been changed that much, but it can now push units around. So it isn't stronger. It doesn't have more armor. It doesn't have more attack speed. It didn't get put on a diet like it has in the past, where, you know, it is a little bit smaller. It now gets to push units around to get to the front a little bit quicker. Does that make the unit better? I would imagine so. How significant is it? I have no clue. I think it is going to be huge, actually. I've been thinking about it quite a bit. Ultras usually are strong when they get into combat, but they rarely get into the fight. Like, they spend about 80% of the fight trying to derp. There's the Ghost Academy coming up, though. Yeah, for now, this fight is going to have to be cleaned up. So let's hope for our sake that SHIN gets it done, because that would mean that we are going to see a little bit of a later game. And it looks like those blinding clouds. Gorgeous cleanup right here. Beautiful play here by SHIN. Oh, that was pretty much flawless. Couldn't have been much better. He's going Ultras. He's going for the chitinous plating upgrade, but we have the Ghost coming up here too. Command center count is growing. So Turtle styles are supposedly a little bit weaker now. I'm not exactly sure about it, but we're gonna see. At least that is one of the goals that they set up for this particular patch. Look at the scan. Look, we have a little red outline. Huge. Massive change. Okay, no, not a huge change, but a quality of life improvement. I want to see the Ultras push the Roaches aside. There they are. Big Daddy Ultras here. Ghosts are out, though. So one thing to note about Ghosts is that when they take damage while they are channeling the snipe ability, the ability is cancelled. So if Ultra's actually close to distance to the Ghost, they can cancel that ability. You have about a second or so. It's not a very long time, but it is quite significant. So here we go. I mean, the Ultras are already in the front. Pew, 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 pew. Pew, 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 pew. I mean, I think at this point, honestly, SHIN just has way too much stuff. Yeah, he's cruising through this. These are unupgraded Liberators for now, in case you're wondering why the circle doesn't seem much different. It's because it isn't. I feel like this Ultra is doing a slightly easier job than it normally would. Yeah, still though, those Ghosts are really strong. And obviously Oliveira has a really good economy on the back of this too. Despite losing a bunch of his workers and all that. How many CCs are we on right now? We're at 5 command centers. You know what I've been thinking? Yes, the Planetary Fortress went from 3 armor to 2 armor, but I still feel like it might be better to just make orbitals. Like, wouldn't it be superior to make an orbital so you can lift it off? We've been already seeing that against, well, for example, Lurker play quite a bit, where Terrans purposely, because you can't fly an orbit, or you can't fly a planetary, you can't fly an orbital. I wonder if we're just gonna see less planetary play and just more orbitals. Morbitals. Oliveira falling very far behind though, and now trying to do what is supposedly not really that easy to do anymore. He's gonna try and turtle up. Ghost though in a little bit of trouble. This planetary is gonna die much quicker now to Ling Bane. Oh, look at the Ultra. You see the Ultra running? Bro, we're gonna look at that again. That was an Ultralisk not derping. It was an Ultralisk chasing. Look, its attack moved onto... It's not getting stuck behind Zerglings. Holy crap. I thought I'd never see the day. 14 years, boys. It's only been 14 years. Okay, that is actually quite a nice change. Yeah, I think that's going to be pretty darn good. Oliveira getting called out on the map, right around that section of the map. It was, yeah, it was too much. GG. Game number 2. We find ourselves on site Delta. Now, by the way, to clarify, on the PTR, there are 6 new maps available as well. So the maps that we are seeing in this particular best of 3, they are the current map pool, obviously. But for upcoming tournaments in the new patch, we are going to be seeing new maps as well. I'm assuming that we're going to see 6 of the 9 maps in the current map pool get cycled out and replaced with a bunch of new ones. So SHIN actually going for a 15 hatch here at 275 minerals. Yeah, so the queen being 25 minerals more expensive and the hatchery being 25 minerals cheaper, it doesn't quite balance out because you make a lot more queens in the early game than you make hatcheries. But the hatchery now gets built a couple seconds sooner than it could in the past. So it means that your queens also will come out a couple seconds earlier than in the past too. Early game Zerg is going to have to change slightly. So this is 15 hatch, 15 pool. But I wonder if it actually works out favorably against, like, say, like a normal Reaper opener. Because the queens can both start maybe 3 seconds earlier or so than you would in the past. Maybe you have to cut 1 drone for it? I'm not exactly sure. I guess it depends on the timing of the gas geyser. But SHIN in the previous game not really using a gas geyser early and instead just going straight to roaches. I wonder how it balances out. Okay, so this is like a 15 hatch, 15 pool into a ring around the Rosie with the drone there, and then I think it was a 19 gas. Okay. Now, by the way, if you are enjoying these games, I know I don't ask this all too often. Dude, take a second to gently caress the like button down below. Yeah, it would really help. I know it's a little bit annoying whenever YouTubers ask, but it is a tremendous help to the videos. Generally speaking, the videos where I ask you guys to hit the like button, they get like an additional 20,000 views or so, which is a lot. So thank you very much. Do appreciate it. If you didn't like it, or if you're not enjoying this, you can hit the dislike button too. Yeah, you don't, I can't tell you what to do. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this video, I'm casting it on the 28th of October. This video is gonna go live tomorrow, which is my birthday. Can I be a full YouTube sellout and ask you to hit the like button for the as like a birthday? No, that's too far. I can guilt trip my viewers. Guilt tripping your viewers is the way forward, eh? That is what I've learned from making YouTube videos for years now. Make your viewers feel guilty about hitting the like button. Yeah, that's okay. It's gonna be a triple CC opener right here for Oliveira. We've got ourselves a good old Hellion follow-up, it looks like. So, to clarify, the Hellions will get +9 damage from the Blue Flame Research compared to the +5 that they've always had. Meaning that they will have an easier time roasting drones. I don't know if it's gonna make the build order more likely. I think overall, probably not. I've got a feeling it's not really going to change. Because you still need to kind of make a second factory, and you kind of need to get a tech lab, and you need to get the... Does it really... No, I don't think it's really justified. I don't think it's really that great of a build, but at the very least, it will be slightly better. Know what they should change? They should allow the Oracles to two-shot SCVs. Yeah, maybe give them a little bit more damage. Okay, no, sorry, that's gonna be later. No, we're gonna be casting some Protoss games in the near future, too. I can rant about it at that time, okay? Why do SCVs get 3-shot and drones get 2-shot by an Oracle? Why does every Protoss buff always go alongside a Protoss nerf? Anyways. You know it's been kind of difficult when somebody who struggles against Skytles for like 5+ years. I've never comfortably played against Skytles in my life. You know when someone like that starts advocating for Protoss Tempest buffs. You know things are getting a little out of hand, man. I find the smart servos on Liberators equally frustrating, though. So smart servos, it's an upgrade you can get in the tech lab, right? Where you can... You can get your Liberators, your Hellbats, and then also the Thors to transform their modes a little bit quicker. Now, that upgrade is pretty underutilized, so they gave it to the Liberator? The Liberator of all units? I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see. So far, relatively normal. I really do like this build, actually, from SHIN quite a bit. He's mixing it up in this one. So rather than going into quick roaches, he's going quick Zerglings. You can tell, though, that he doesn't have as many queens roaming the map, but he's adding them on a little bit later. This is now with a 4th hatchery coming up. Final queen just popped. I'm assuming he's going to stick to 9. But the timing of the queens is a little bit different. You can see that there's a little bit of idle larva as well. So generally speaking, all Zerg build orders rely on getting as little idle larva as possible. I think this is SHIN basically cutting drones in order to get queens out. And I think that's the exact goal for this patch. Rather than Zergs always defaulting to trying to get rid of the larva first and then, you know, just using leftover money for queens, you now have to make a decision. Which is not a bad idea. Wait, how much did it say the hatchery got cancelled for? Then she's going in. Sorry, I want to see what it said. Because you get... 207? Ugh. I don't like that. Odd numbers in my game of StarCraft 2? Look, 25 is an even number. We've discussed that in the past, okay? 25 is an honorary even number, together with 75. Hey, is that a second factory coming up? A nice and early second factory here. We'll have to keep an eye out on exactly what the plan is. Probably siege tanks. Macro hatchery coming up. What are we gonna mess around with this time around, SHIN? What's the plan? So far, it's Ling Bane. Oh, keep in mind, by the way, did I mention the Hydra ability? Oh yeah, I did mention the Hydra ability. The Hydras have a new ability called Dash. This is a Hive Tech upgrade that allows them to get like a 1/10 of a second stim pack. Now, they get like a tiny little speed boost. You can like slither them around. Queens, taking a bit of damage. Nice cleanup here, though, by the Zerg. SHIN playing a really good game here. We have a couple of Banelings waiting for their roly-poly upgrade. Now, it's still a while away, so I guess we're going to just be walking them in instead. And I would... Okay, we're dead. Hey, at least 3 supply depots. It was something. 500 HP? Yep, 500 HP on this supply depot now. Instant heal. Fair enough. Okay. These are all pretty decent cleanups right here for SHIN, though. Terran has got a 4th command center just about to finish up. Looks like we're going to go into a Widowmine transition here, because this is such a Ling Bane heavy army. I wonder if maybe like Hydra Infestor, Hydra Ling Bane Infestor, Hydra Ling Bane Lurker Infestor, like that type of unit composition. Ooh, those Widowmines almost got a ton of damage done. So far, Oliveira not really finding his groove very much. I wonder if those unit comps are going to be a little bit more viable, specifically against flying units. Like, against the new Liberator, is it possible to go into Microbial Shroud and then dash in with your Hydras? I guess. Now, there is one problem with the dash ability, by the way. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is like foreigner English right over here. But in my mind, dash implies legs. And Hydras have 1 leg. They like slither around. Can a Hydralisk... I don't know. This is just like the Hurricane Thrusters ability all over again. As all of these pushes here from the Terran are being cleaned up easy peasy. He's dealing a little bit of damage, though. Oliveira, that is. More command centers are building. We never really got going in the previous game. I'm hoping in this one we're gonna see a little bit more of that Liberator buff in particular. I mean, I'm calling it a buff. Some people are calling it a nerf, but it's definitely a buff. Some people are calling it a nerf, but those people are wrong. Look, I know I never discuss politics on YouTube, but this is as close to politics as I will get. Yes. Your definition of a... No, your definition of a nerf is wrong. No, sorry. Ghost Academy coming up. I feel like on the whole, the patch will probably be mostly the same for this matchup, with a couple of quality of life improvements here and there. I think the most interesting thing to happen to ZVT will probably be new maps. Okay. Nice snipe over here on the hatchery, though, by Oliveira. Brenda, no! Brenda, 25 minerals more expensive. Brenda became a little bit more high maintenance. I guess the cost of living for Zergs went up as well, huh? It is what it is. But she's worth it, though. She's a queen. Lurker Den coming up. Lurker Den without a hive? SHIN. Lurker Den without a hive? That's gotta be a misplay. Okay, Oliveira, look, here's what we should consider doing. We should try and make a fusion core. And then make a second starport. And just make a ton of those things, dude. Oh, here's a sensor tower coming up. So the sensor tower's radius has gone down substantially. Now, it's hard to really note from the patch notes when you look at the numbers. Let's see the minimap. It doesn't appear on the minimap. Oh, no, it does. It does appear on the... No, it doesn't appear on the minimap, but it does appear on the small map. Or the... Well, anyways, you get what I'm trying to say. It does appear over here. So it's now 50 gas. Oh, dude, that seems kind of terrible. So he's going to be able to notice it. Yeah. But normally you'd see that from a mile away. So these are now 50 gas cheaper, and they are salvageable. Meaning that you can get it. You can get that resource back. Like 75% of it. Oh, fusion core. Fusion core, baby. Okay. Now, don't go losing the game now, Oliveira. No, it's okay. It's alright. So, effectively, there are now 2 upgrades that can make Liberators better. First off, you have the Smart Servos upgrade. So, that is something that has always been in the game, but it was never useful for Liberators. Now they benefit from it too. They siege and unsiege about 25% quicker. And then secondly... they have the Advanced Ballistics Research, which has been reworked to not add additional range, but instead to add additional radius. So it's a 56% area increase. That is why we're going Fusion Core right now. One big advantage, though, of not changing or not allowing it additional range anymore is that it's allowing a lot of map redesigns. So a lot of the maps right now are designed, and they have to be designed around the Liberator's absurd range that it had in the past. Right now, that should be less of an issue. So there's the Fusion Core coming up. Second reactor here as well on a starport. In the meantime, though, SHIN still fighting this to the best of his abilities. Ooh! Big explosion. Both units, or both armies rather, take a tremendous amount of damage. Now it's up to Oliveira to try and play survival, because there's also lurkers inside of the main base. We do not yet have the Hydra ability. So it's an activated ability. It's not something that's on autocast. You have to, well, manually use the button on Hydras. And it is also up to SHIN here to remember that that is a thing. I think it's 100 minerals, 100 gas, takes about a minute to research. Okay, so far looks like Oliveira is going to be able to push this back. Lurkers in the main base, though, can put in a lot of work. But here's the liberation zones. Oh, wait, no, not yet. Soon to be. The new liberation zones. Keep an eye out on that production tab or on the bottom right-hand corner. Circle is gonna get big. Okay. It obviously does not attack structures. There was this screenshot going around on Twitter about like a nexus and then pylons all around the nexus and then the Liberator's range still being bigger than all of that. I mean, technically speaking, it should be slightly easier to reach the Liberators, I guess, with ground units, like for example Stalkers or for example Hydralisks. I think SHIN has forgotten about the upgrade, guys. I don't see SHIN getting the dash upgrade for the Hydralisk. Either that or there's no graphical image for it. Because obviously this is not the official server. We'll see if they start moving around a little bit quicker. Oh, look at those liberation circles. Oh, they do look massive. Yeah, that is a massive increase. Ooh. Still though, this is not an army all on its own. Oliveira. Oh my lord, he's actually winning the Hydra battle. Ooh! I didn't think he was gonna win that Hydra battle. I don't think Oliveira thought the same thing. He picked up, he was ready to get on out of there. He's like, wait a second. Let me drop those units back to the ground. Those Hydras stood no chance. In the meantime, the lurkers are trying to put in a little bit of work. Look at these guys firing sideways because they're cool like that. I think the Liberator range is a little silly. I mean, I don't really even care so much for this matchup. I care mostly for Terran versus Protoss. Especially with the Tempest, like being more microable, but then also, obviously, classic Protoss change. They also get a range nerf. I guess it's still fine against Liberators, but it really does look too big. Hey, look, there it is. The dash ability, researching. So this is a Hive Tech upgrade. There are now 3 upgrades in the game for the Hydralisk. So it's like a 1 second speed boost. I would imagine it's well worth it, but I don't know if it's gonna be able to counter libs. 11 Liberators now up in the air. My god, look at that! What do? Apparently you attack move in there? I don't know, buddy. Yeah. That looks too big to me, man. Now, coincidentally, that's also what she said, but that really does look too much. This doesn't even imply, like, there's no smart servos yet. Oh my god. Well, they're just going straight onto the Hydras. There's the dash ability being used as well on those Hydras. Do they still win? Oh, the Liberators still win. These are +2 Hydras, unupgraded libs. Well, I guess they have the armor. But anyways. Yeah, that was about the best case scenario for SHIN. I guess he could have made more Hydras. Nah, that goes too far. I think that's too far. I don't even hate the smart servos, but a 56% area increase? Look, Zerg can just go Corruptors, but I think the entire premise is to not always need Corruptors as an anti-air choice. I wonder if maybe you can do Infestors and then use the new sticky microbial shroud onto the... I don't know. Honestly, I don't even think you should make Ghosts. I think you just make yeah, I think you just make Liberators. Ghosts seem like a mistake. Never mind. It's not a mistake. But it's like, you know, it seems suboptimal. Just dump your resources on Liberators instead. No, never has the Ghost been a mistake. I also don't see, though, like, so the whole idea of the patch is to make Terran less turtly, right? Like, that's one of the goals. I feel like the Liberator change makes Terran significantly more turtly, right? Like, I don't know what I'm missing. Like, a lot of people are talking about the fact that Terran is now not gonna... How can you turtle less with Liberators having 56% additional area? I mean, I get that the... Here we go again. I get that the Planetary is one less armor. And I get that the... Oh, he just murdered the Zerg. Oh my god. I get that the sensor tower is less range now. But as long as the Liberators are set up in a good position, you can turtle very easily. Honestly though, as far as like turtling strats go, there's always going to be one race who will be better at turtling, right? It's been Protoss in the past, it's been Zerg in the past too. Right now it's definitely Terran who turtles the most. A lot of turtling is not so much due to balance of the game in my mind, unless there's like one race that has the very obvious advantage, right? Like if you have just a much better army, you can make a death ball of units. It makes sense that you're going to sit back and make that death ball and then go win the game. But a lot of it has to do with map design. If you have maps, for example, where Terran cannot take 50% of the resources easily, you will see far less turtle strategies. And that's just what it comes down to. Like, -1 armor on a planetary, that's good against Ling run-bys, I guess. Or good for Zerg against Ling run-bys, but it doesn't really change turtling very much. Okay, well, we'll find out. Shin once more, going pool first, it looks like. Pool first into a hatch. I like that we are getting a new multiplayer balance patch, but I'm honestly more excited for new maps. At the same time, I don't see anybody talking about the new maps. Even though I would imagine they have a more significant impact on the balance of the game than a new patch. I haven't really looked into them very much yet myself. We haven't had official messaging anywhere that these are, like the maps on the PTR, are supposed to be the upcoming ladder maps. I can imagine they are, but I don't really know for certain. It's interesting to me. Not nearly as much of a... I think maybe the ones on the PTR are still experimental or something along those lines. But, yeah, then again, the whole patch should be experimental. That's kind of the thing. So, obviously, this is the public test server, right? Like, that's the whole idea. The whole premise of it is that the game can be tested and bugs can be flushed out. And that maybe you can make adjustments before the final version of the patch goes live on the game. But history tells us that at least ever since Blizzard has laid their hands off of balancing the game and left it to the Balance Council, usually the way that it goes is we have we have a PTR, we have a test server, and then a couple weeks later, it just gets pushed to the live version of the game. No adjustments, no nothing. Sometimes bugs included and everything. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe discussing all the changes is nice, but it's not gonna really make much of a difference anymore, and these are like what we're gonna get. But I guess we'll see. Triple CC coming up right here for Oliveira. And we've got a relatively normal build here once again for Shin, although one with a pool first. I wonder if pool first is going to be better. Probably not. I would imagine hatchery first is better than pool first, but a little bit of variety. And I can imagine that Zergs are going to have to figure out what the optimal way of building all of your units is. It's the same for Protoss, by the way. Protoss, because of the shield battery change and the shield battery overcharge removal, I think they're going to have to reinvent a lot of the early game too. There's been quite a bit of drama specifically about Queen Marches in Zerg versus Protoss, where Protoss are saying, yo, I can't hold it. Like, it does not seem possible without battery overcharge, which is a little bit worrisome. The same for, like, Proxy Marauder builds and other Terran shenanigans in the early game. Without shield battery overcharge, it seems really hard to hold. But, yeah, I guess we'll see. Okay, so I find the Liberators to be a little bit too good. But that's my main takeaway so far. I think I like most everything else. By the way, Oliveira didn't even bother getting smart servos in the previous game. Like, I think he may have forgotten. We haven't really seen spine crawlers. We haven't seen spore crawlers much. So those are units that are adjusted or are adjusted. Microbial Shroud also. We haven't seen that yet. But those are all very niche units and abilities. I would like to maybe see some Brute Lord play. That would be nice. You can really see what the Brute Lord now looks like. Is it significantly better or does it not really make a difference? It is kind of funny though, how in like every single balance patch we've had over the years. So there's been a little bit of we've seen some leaks of how the discussions go in the StarCraft 2 Balance Council. It seems like a few folks posted some stuff on the Battle.net forums and the Team Liquid forums and all that. Long story short, from what I understood, apparently the Protoss pros that are in that group chat, they seem to be quite reasonable and they seem to be going along with most of the changes people suggest. Apparently the Zerg players that are in the Balance Council rarely talk. And apparently the Terrans are very vocal. Which I feel like is a very lore-accurate way to have a Balance Council. And I think because the Terrans are probably more vocal, they've been able to push in some changes over the years that nobody asked for, but that have a very significant set of impact. There's two in particular that come to mind. So years ago, the Liberator became 25 gas cheaper. Nobody ever asked for that, but it was just kind of there. They just randomly made the Liberator cheaper. I don't think anybody thought that that was useful. I don't think that was needed, but the Liberator got a random buff. The same for the Viking. Remember how the Viking got a damage point change? And a lot of people are like, what's a damage point change? Right? It basically makes the micro ability rather of a unit better. So basically, Clem never lost against Colossus builds ever again. And these are changes that get pushed through that only ever Terran gets and that Protoss really needs. And I feel like with this patch, the smart servos for Liberators is that version. Like, why? Nobody's asking for a Liberator buff. As a matter of fact, I think most people are asking for maybe a balance adjustment to make it slightly worse. I feel like smart servos for Liberators is like this patch's version of the Viking damage point and the Liberator cost reduction from a couple years back. It just seems a little unnecessary to me. Anyways, Baneling rollby is going to be attempted here for SHIN. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. I think that's a good way to describe it. It is funny though, because in the StarCraft world for years now, on the forums, on Team Liquid, Battle.net, Reddit, everywhere, it's usually Terran players that are the most vocal. So it's kind of funny to hear that that is apparently also the case in the the Balance Council. I don't really know exactly how truthful all of these things are, but it is kind of... I want it to be true, you know? It makes sense in my mind. Now, many people have asked if I'm part of the Balance Council. Hell no. I don't want to be part of the Balance Council at all. I want to be able to give you my opinion and then complain about the Balance Council, but not actually be part of it myself. It's kind of like politics, you know? I like to complain about stuff, but I don't actually want to get into politics. No, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to be part of that discussion. Absolutely not. Yeah. It does rub me the wrong way, though. How, like, Zerg and Terran get away with getting little buffs without actually anything to compensate. And then every single time Protoss gets a buff, there's always something to, like, nerf the units as well. So, for example, current PTR patch, Immortal becomes 25 minerals cheaper, but then at the same time, it gets a 10% damage speed reduction. The Tempest becomes slightly more microable and one less supply, but then immediately it also gets a -1 ranged reduction. The Mothership becomes significantly more powerful as far as its base damage goes, but it also becomes 100 minerals and 100 gas more expensive. The Disruptor gets additional ranged on the Purification Nova, but then it also deals less damage. Like, this is a theme that you can take back for several years, where every single time you get a buff for Protoss, there's also a slight nerf to go hand in hand with it. And it just, I don't know. It's starting to be frustrating to me. Oh, I thought for a second that was a GG, but it was a PP. PP, go, go, ready, 3, 2, 1, go, go. This is how we communicate, in case you're wondering. Back in my day, PP meant pause, please. StarCraft players are very good at communicating. Our social skills are second to none. Alright, sorry, I haven't really been talking about the game all too much, but this game has been pretty normal. 91 workers right now for SHIN, who's trying to go into Hyderling Bane, and then into good old Lurkers. Got the Lurkers right now. Well, on the production tab anyways. In the meantime, we have a rather large amount of siege tanks here with a bunch of Widow memes as well. Gonna be pretty much impossible to push into this place. We have no Vipers up in the air here for SHIN, but he's gonna be able to get that Lurker transition going momentarily. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now, finishing up here for Oliveira. Oh, can we? I don't think you can do this. No, no way. Oliveira takes that fight easy peasy. I don't think SHIN needed to be there because he already lost the base, so there was nothing to gain for engaging off creep. But I guess he's trying to hope and cross his fingers that Terran is AFK. That's a strategy I have employed many times as well in all my years of StarCraft. Can't win the fight, but I can cross my fingers and hope my opponent doesn't pay attention. Sadly for SHIN, Oliveira is a world-class Terran. And he does pay attention. Great splits. Beautiful movement here by the Chinese Terran. Still though, despite killing that base, he also has lost a lot of his troops, and this is still a Zerg with 90 drones, which is not to be underestimated. Lurker range coming up. Tech Labs building here. Do we have... Oh, okay. Do we have a Ghost Academy? Not yet, but it's coming up right now. In the top of the main base. Do you think we even need ghosts? Maybe ghosts are a necessity, I'm not sure. I wonder if you can take the transition to Liberators first and then go ghosts a little bit later on. Like, you definitely do need ghosts in like your ultimate late game army. Like, as good as ghosts are, they're also such a necessity, right? Nice sniper right there by Oliveira. Once more, good micro. But I feel like because the Liberator seems so good to me right now, you don't really need ghosts. It's a curious way to nerf a unit, though. You buff the alternative, which is gonna get the other unit played more frequently. I don't know if that's... It's a Terran nerf. That's not how Protoss would ever get a nerf, though. I can tell you that much. Planetary Fortress in the top right. Nidus Worm inside of the main base. Pew, 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 pew. Going down. Oliveira, by the way, ridiculously good in this matchup. Obviously, he's experimenting with a bit of variety in this particular series, but Oliveira is apparently Cyril's go-to practice partner for this matchup, and you can tell. Guy's very fast. So far, though, SHIN is playing a really slick set of games here. I feel like there's a bit more room for optimization, especially for the early game, whereas economy is just not quite there, but I really do like his like mid to late game follow-ups a lot. He does have a bit of a YOLO approach sometimes, where he goes a little too deep, but that's a problem I've had in all my games as well for many years. I rarely disengage. This is actually something I know from my own gameplay, but I rarely disengage. I fight to the death. Terran, Protoss, or Zerg, I don't care. We came to fight, and tonight we dine in hell. That's the Loko way of playing. I know I'm criticizing SHIN for it, but I probably should take that advice for myself. Yeah, I do feel like the Planetary is taking substantially more damage. Right? Like, it is noticeable that it's got less armor. Blinding Cloud coming in. Abductions coming in. Okay. Nidus Worm. I can't believe we're not getting the dash ability. For 100 minerals, 100 gas, I feel like it's an absolute no-brainer. On the Hydra, then, it just seems like such a good choice. Yeah, there's not really any downsides, I guess, to the Planetary Fortress nerf. Other than Thermal running into some issues, maybe. It's gonna be much more difficult to Planetary Fortress rush your opponent. But for the most part, it should be an okay choice. Terrans will make loads of command centers anyway, so generally you can replace it. It's gonna be cheaper, though, for Zergling Baneling run-bys to deal a lot of damage. So, the Brute Lord is the only real unit that we haven't seen much yet. The Brute Lord, so the Brute Links, the things that the Brute Lord throws, they are 10 HP, so they got an additional 10 HP, and they also attack slightly faster. Those are the changes. Does that make the unit good? I don't know. I hope that SHIN is gonna give them a shot, but I mean, I think we're already getting a pretty good look at what the patch is actually like. I'd be surprised, actually, if we are going to be seeing it. Ghost Academy 2.0 coming up because the Queens up north in the main base killed it. Oliveira holding on. I can't believe he's not making Liberators. That previous game looked so good for Liberators. Am I losing my mind? I mean, maybe I'm slightly biased, but the Liberator looked incredible in that previous game. I really think we should just be making Liberators, dude. Like, that's basically the only unit you need right about right now. Nice Sniperinos. Good job. And even though Oliveira has sort of been pushed around a little bit, and he's been, well, forced to evacuate a couple of these locations, he is still looking like he's in a pretty comfortable spot. How many orbitals are we on? We have 3 command centers. And we have... Ooh, only 3 orbitals? Okay, we're making a couple more. I was gonna say, you kind of aim for like 8. You kind of want probably about... Oh, Greater Spire! Let's go, SHIN. Yo, is SHIN actually playing the patch to experiment? One common thing that we've seen in the past from pro gamers whenever there's a multiplayer balance patch is they actually just try to win. They don't play to test the changes. They just play to win. I know, how boring. SHIN actually seems to be testing stuff. I think this is about like a $300 tournament, something along those lines. So it's, yeah, there's some money on the line. But apparently SHIN is not afraid to use this as an opportunity to also see if maybe he can try out something new. So we have seen quite a bit of Lurker Brute Lord play against Protoss, specifically against Protoss ground. We do have the Banelings killing another base. Orbital Command is gonna get replaced here. Or Planetary Rod is gonna get replaced immediately with an Orbital, but I feel like SHIN is just kind of dominating. Like he's having a grand old time. Throwing down a bunch of Nidus Worms, rolling his units into a Planetary, running a bunch of Lurkers to the left. The next step in the master plan is double upgrades, I guess, and then a whole load of Brother Lords. Oliveira does not know about the Brute Lord transition that's imminent. He is trying to not die. You know what? I recently casted some games from SHIN when he played where he played a very similar strategy, or similar strategies as what he has been doing so far in this series. And I wonder if maybe he's been playing the PTR a lot, because I didn't really like the builds that he was playing very much. Especially the early half of the game. I thought it was a little reckless, but Not really a killer instinct, just trying to play survival, but maybe he was preparing for dispatch already. Because he seems to have a very good understanding of what needs to be done. I think the plan, by the way, is to suddenly come out with, yeah, Brute Lord Infester. 13 Brute Lords on the production tab. Oliveira has no clue. He's making Medivacs. He's making Siege Tank, Marauders. He's going into an Armory again, sure. All of that does not shoot up. Now, of course, Ghosts are really good. They can counter Brute Lords. But what you really need is an entirely different unit composition than what Oliveira has right now. 16 Ghosts is good, but I don't know if it's good enough. Especially if you can fungal them, so obviously this is going to be the first time that Oliveira will see that there is, well, an Infester. He hasn't yet seen the Brute Lords. There they are. Justice reigns from above!
Stay cool.
Oh god.
That field's been mined out. Your forces are under attack.
That is the Diva announcer that SHIN likes to play with. Your forces are... Oh, fungal! Yeah, now you're gonna have to run. Oliveira is not set up to fight Brute Lords whatsoever. And I gotta compliment SHIN's very swarmy style in this series. In the previous game, he tried to play something that looked a lot like the current patch, right? Hydraling Bane into Lurker. In this and the first game, he is playing very, very swarmy. Now, this is not over yet. We have the Thor coming up. The Thor did get adjustments, but specifically for its splash damage missiles. So the Thor has 2 attack modes, and the long-ranged weapons, the ones that you usually use against Brute Lords, they're unchanged. I can't believe we still do not have the ranged upgrade for the Liberators, man. Advanced Ballistics is such a good choice. Can we get Blue Flame going as well? Oh, we already have Blue Flame. Okay. So Blue Flame Hellbats and Blue Flame Hellions have a different damage modifier. Oh, the Thor is stuck. Alright, there you go. Yeah. I've seen a lot of videos on the internet of people getting stuck. Maybe they should use a Medivac, much like Oliveira. Not a bad play. I like the skins, by the way, that Oliveira is using. We don't really see these all too often. Apparently, we are going to mine out the mineral fields a little bit more. But does he have enough here to deal with all of this big fungal growth to keep those ghosts pinned back? Keep in mind that in the patch prior to this one, about 7 months ago, the Brute Lords did get a speed buff. We haven't really seen them much because they're considered to be quite bad, but this seems to be quite noticeably better. +2/+2 coming up. Yeah, I think Oliveira is kind of dead. I mean, Oliveira is playing survival, but he is not going anywhere. I don't think his transition to the late game was quite optimal. This is making Zerg look very, very powerful. Maybe a little bit too powerful on the new patch. But at the same time, this is also Oliveira not really making any changes towards what he normally would be playing. Like, this is as standard a Terran style. Oh my god, okay. If those fungals would have landed, that would have been the end of the world, although they did land in the northern section of this fight. This is him basically playing like he does in the current patch, with rarely an adjustment. So, if that's the case, like, I think we should have gone Liberators much sooner. He still wins this fight. I mean, he's super dead against the follow-up here from Zerg, but he still won that engagement. Ultimately, there's no way he's going to be able to deal with the reinforcements here from the Zerg player. SHIN also going into Ultras there, apparently, at the very end. But yeah, very well done here by the South Korean Zerg. He's the one that wins over Oliveira 2-1.